Okay, I would like to call this meeting of Finance and Corporate Services to order. Good morning, everyone. There are no consent items, so we're going to move right into the discussion items. The first being the Residential Energy Efficiency Program from REAP Green Solutions. And we do have a delegation for this item, so I would ask Ms. Mary Jane Patterson to step up to the microphone, please. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Chair Davies, Mayor Zaire, not yet here today, and councillors. It's great to have an opportunity to check in with you each
Sorry,
year.
one moment here. I think your microphone isn't on there. Can you handle that from your side there?
Oh, stand between the microphones? Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
thank
you. Okay. They were working so bad I couldn't even hear what you said to me. I'd like to introduce Dave Blake, our Business Development Manager at REAP. Dave and I are here to thank you for your support in 2012 and celebrate the achievements of Kitchener residents that were possible through that support. It's all about citizens taking action. What if I back up? Okay. Thank you. Our goal is to spur citizens to take action, and you will see all sorts of results and photos of just that in the annual report for 2012 that you received in your package. Also in your package is our letter to the Environment Committee that shows how our programs and services directly align with the city's own strategic plan for 2011 to 2014, the official plan, and the strategic plan for the environment. So we're helping the city achieve its goals. I also want to invite you to see more by looking at our Facebook page. It's full of lively exchange of ideas and information. And there's also some pretty cool videos, how-to videos on our website. So I hope you'll take a minute to explore some of that other material to see the ways that we're engaging people in the community.
We're also here to request your continued financial support in the amount of $27,500. Your contribution to our operating costs is a key part of the foundation on which REAP builds the programs and services that we deliver to the residents of Kitchener in an affordable way that's accessible to all of the City of Kitchener. And one of the examples of that is the REAP House for Sustainable Living. We have exciting plans for 2014 for the continuing of the RAIN program, for continuation and growth of the home assistance program that we're delivering to social housing and cooperative housing throughout the City of Kitchener, as well as spurring energy home retrofits throughout the city as well. If you have any questions about our 2014 activities, either from our letter, from our annual report, or otherwise, we'd be happy to be able to answer them. We're also very excited about the Climate Action Plan coming before the municipal councils later this fall. This is an historic moment for our community, and we are proud to be part of the leadership of Climate Action Waterloo Region. REAP has already helped homeowners reduce 1,800 tons of carbon emissions that will count directly towards the community-wide greenhouse gas emission target. In short, we have a great deal of environmental action to be proud of in the City of Kitchener. Thank you for your support, and we look forward to working together in 2014 to keep the momentum going. We'll answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you kindly. Questions of the delegation? Councillor Fernandez.
Good morning, Mary Jane and Brian.
Dave.
Sorry?
Dave.
Sorry, Dave. Got Brian on the brain. I'm just looking at some of your projected results, and maybe I'm not looking in the right place. But one of my questions was regarding how many people have taken advantage of the RAIN program in this last year. Can you direct me to did I miss that in your report?
We have 2012 results in the annual report. So that's the center spread. So you get a sense there on the right-hand side of numbers as of 2012. I am told by the team that we're now at over 4,000 people directly engaged in one way or another, either from taking part in a service, from conversations at events, presentations that we've made, workshops that we go to, that kind of thing. So the results have climbed significantly since even our annual report.
So are you finding that it's more residential uptake on this than commercial and industrial? And what are you doing to get commercial and industrial to, because that's where we see a lot of that runoff off of the parking lots and the rooftops of those very large buildings.
A primary focus for us in the last couple of years was residential, with the ICI sector also. What we're finding, especially getting feedback from the cities of Kitchener and Waterloo, is that they're very happy with the residential uptake, and they'd like to focus more on the ICI sector uptake. It's a bigger operation for that to be implemented, so it just takes more interaction and more work, and that's going to be a primary focus for us in 2014 with the RAIN program.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that, because I think that's one of the areas that I think we could see a significant reduction in the runoff off of those properties. The home assistance program, I know that you had lost some of the grant money and a couple of years ago. Have you been able to make that up?
You're thinking of the Eco Energy program.
Right.
And so two separate programs, both addressing residential energy consumption. Eco Energy, there's no grants from the federal or provincial level. So as we reported last year, when Priyanka was in Dave's position, we see home energy retrofits as essentially stalled unless we take action. And Dave is working on local improvement charge financing as the mechanism that we see that gives municipalities the power to enable people to take action. And then the home assistance program is funded through our LDCs with partnership support from Kitchener Utilities, and that's directed at homes that are eligible by income.
Right. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. The number that the request that for funding was approved at the Environmental Committee, right? And this number seems familiar. It's the same as last year, essentially. Okay, great. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Councillor Yaneski.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just have a few questions, also questions of staff as well, but I'll start with the delegation first. I'm just wondering if the intent of the evaluations that is being conducted, that you have received, is on the increase, as I'm just wondering that in the staff report it talks that there is interest in sustainable living continues to increase and REAP thrives on this. Yet the amount of initial evaluations in 2011 was 737, and then 2012 it drops to 97. And then I'm wondering where you are this year. I mean, that's a huge, like 800% drop. I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Sorry, the microphone keeps...
You can't hear me?
No, no, you're back.
Oh, okay. You're correct. It is significant. That's what we're talking about with home energy evaluations or home energy retrofits being stalled. All of that activity was triggered by incentives that encouraged homeowners to upgrade their homes. When they did, they could have a financial reward from the federal and provincial governments for doing that. And that spurred a tremendous amount of activity. And without those incentives available from the federal and provincial governments, we see that work as essentially stalled. We're doing everything that we can through the REAP House for Sustainable Living, and we're finding people reporting back that they've done some work. We're doing everything we can to encourage municipalities to use this tool that is available to them, local improvement charge financing. And Dave could say a little more about that if you'd like to hear.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
The next question I have is, of those initial evaluations that are done, what's the percentage of those who do follow through and say, okay, I do want that grant and do the retrofit, as opposed to those say, well, that's maybe beyond my dollar means, or whatever their excuse is? How much follow through do you see percentage-wise, roughly?
When we had incentives in place, I think we saw close to 90% that they had a specific timeline, an 18-month window provided by the government, or they would not qualify for those incentives. So that really spurred people to do the work. And then they needed to have a follow-up evaluation to verify the results in order to access the incentives, and that allowed us to be able to report the numbers. So that was about 90%. We see the benefit of a program like local improvement charge financing as having a similar result. You would you'd have a certain window within which to qualify for the financing, and the follow-up evaluation would be the final qualifier, so we'd be able to verify the results.
Okay. I'm sort of going page by page here. In your report to the Environmental Committee, for this year, I mean, you receive so much grant money locally, provincially, and federally. And locally, for 2013, it says 17%. And when I look at the $27,500 compared to the revenue that you have received on page, wherever it was, that works out to 3.7% is Kitchener's contribution. Is there also contributions from City of Waterloo, Cambridge, and the region to add up to that 17%?
Yes, if you look at page 6 of the package at the top, local funding for REAP in 2013 and anticipated for 2014. You'll see our local funders there. Is it page 9? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see there. That's right. And I looked at that, and I just didn't put it together with the
It's somewhere,
other figure.
like on the first page, we said that Kitchener's funding represents 4% of our 2014 budget of $700,000.
Okay. Bear with me here for a sec. Page 10. I also noticed that your overall budget on page 1-20 in our report, and I'm not sure what page it would be in your report, we have a statement of revenue and expenses.
Okay, the annual report.
Yeah. And you have in 2011, 962,000, and then in 2012 it drops a bit to 940,000. Yet for next year it's at 732. It drops substantially of potential revenue, and that's the line I'm referring to. What happened, or what's like you're getting less money? That's almost 200,000 less.
We're getting further and further away from eco-energy as part of it, but we're still here, so we're glad to say that. 2012 included the end of the eco-energy program, so that was probably the main reason. In 2014, we're also finishing with the very big RAIN program, but what we're carrying on with is an extension of that and also the home assistance program. So it's just the way, it's really the ups and downs of a nonprofit organization.
Okay. So my final question to you is that your request for $27,500 today is getting a jump on coming back during budget time and asking for that at that time to make this a commitment today?
Every year, the Environment Committee invites us to come in September, and then it's forwarded from the Environment Committee to Council. So we were part of what we thought was the right process.
Okay. Do I ask questions of staff now or
Questions of staff after.
after?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Councillor Gazzola?
Can you tell me how much our report indicates the ongoing grants you've received, but can you tell me how much you've received out of the LEAF Fund in, I think it was in 2009, 2011, and for the RAIN project?
Yes. The Kitchener Home Energy Grants, which we reported in our annual report, we received $60,000 to administer that program, and the city set aside $440,000 for incentives that were used up by, I think, 302 Kitchener residents who qualified and who upgraded their insulation and draft proofing of their homes. On the RAIN program, the city provided $161,000 over 2 years, and that was then brought to the Minister of the Environment of the Province of Ontario in a four-way partnership with the cities of Kitchener and Waterloo, REAP, and Green Communities Canada, and allowed us to bring a $1 million grant from the province to our two cities. And that has been the RAIN program over the last 2.5 years.
And that's over at the end of 2013?
Yes.
You stated to Councillor Yaneski that the take-up is about 90%, but when I looked, we have a chart, it's on one page, 1-2, and it shows initial valuations of 14,000 and follow-up of about 7,800. That's not quite the 90%.
Yes. The program started in 1999. For the first 4 years, there were no incentives, and that's where we really see the difference when there isn't a follow-up evaluation. There's no reason for people to come back. They take their time. So the incentive was introduced in 2003. That's when we really started even doing follow-up evaluations. The return rate for the Underguide for Houses program from 2003 to 2006 might have been about 70%. Then the program was canceled, came back a year later as Eco-Energy. The province decided to match the federal grants. That doubled the incentive. And then stimulus funding of an additional 25% was added to both sides. So there were more incentives than there had ever been, and that boosted it right up to 90%. So if we were to isolate each program, we could show you the different levels of uptake. But the most recent level for the last few years was 90%.
I just want to clarify that one program no longer has federal provincial funding, so it is over. Mm-hmm. Was it over in 2013?
2012.
So there will be no activity in 2013 in that.
We still offer home energy evaluations, and we still have a handful of people every month that take them up, and we contact them a few months later to ask them if they've done any work, and some have. It's a far different level of retrofit activity from when there is a program somehow encouraging uptake.
The 27,500 grant from Kitchener, does that include what comes from Kitchener Utilities?
Kitchener Utilities doesn't provide funding directly to REAP. It does provide $60 towards the cost of a home energy evaluation, which helps Kitchener residents decide to take that action. And Kitchener Utilities is joining with our LDCs in providing uptake measures for the home assistance program.
So do we have any idea how much Kitchener Utilities have contributed in addition to the 27,500?
Kitchener Utilities doesn't contribute directly to REAP.
No, but I guess that's a question for staff.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so there's not, the 27,500 is the total amount. Now, I keep looking for this every year. Is the City of Waterloo involved?
The City of Waterloo contributes through Waterloo North Hydro.
Okay. How about our 4 rural townships? Do they provide anything?
No.
Is there ever any thought of having them provide something? Or?
We have presented to them and talk about the success of our rural programs. I think we see their region contribution as partly covering that.
Yes, but we also give, I would imagine, close to 40% of what comes from the region is from the city of Kitchener. So, yeah. You show your grants at 127,000, and yet on the 2014 budget, you show the grants at about 204,000. Where is that? Where's that difference coming from?
The difference in that is actually a Ontario Trillium Foundation grant that was provided to REAP over 2 years to sort of focus on research and development and program development for incremental programs around energy retrofit uptake.
So are the 2 years, 2013 and 2014?
Well, it'll span from July of 2013 through to July of 2015. So it was a portion of this year, the entire of 2014, and then a portion of 2015.
So what happens when that disappears?
The objective of the actual grant is to use that to help to facilitate incremental fee-for-service and sustainable revenue generation. So the objective would be is that that funding should be able to be met by increases in revenue by 2015.
Just one final, I was looking at the rain results, and again, this will lead to a question for staff, but according to your figures, there's been a tremendous uptake on that. Would people then be eligible to get a grant or a reduction, a rebate from the city if they took advantage of that?
Mm-hmm. So a big part of the focus of our program is making sure people know they can get a credit for the work that they're doing on stormwater management.
Which I found amazing. The uptake is 27 times what it was in 2011, and yet, if I remember correctly, our rebates and our stormwater program were not near what we budgeted. So that's a question for staff. Thank you very much.
Councillor Glenn Graham.
Thank you very much, Chair Davey. And Mary Jane and Dave, thank you for coming in and your good report. I'm interested in the evolution of the program in terms of home retrofits. And I know that you've got some irons in the fire. If you could talk about the city's possible role and how that might benefit the homeowners that are looking to improve their home, but they're lacking the incentives they had before. What your thoughts are on that?
Thank you for the question. We look at the increased opportunities for energy retrofits as a sort of a multi-stage process of which there are multiple stakeholders which would have a role to play. Specifically, the City of Kitchener can take the role of providing a financing mechanism for property assessed payments for energy retrofits, or LIC financing. We are working and engaging with other stakeholders in the community with respect to the LDCs to have them participate as well, contractors to be sort of complete that entire picture so that homeowners, some of the obstacles that homeowners have today, potentially around the actual incentives, but also around the time it takes to recoup the investment, would be able to be borne and addressed by programs like the LIC financing. So we're in the process of working through that with different cities in the community.
And will we see something before us soon?
Certainly, that's the intent. I joined REAP about 2 months ago, so there has been a time to sort of get things sort of in order. There has been a lot of work, specifically around the Home Assistance Program, which there's been some incredible uptake in the City of Kitchener that's consumed some time and energy to get that forward. I will be providing some information through City Council, in the next month or two to get some more details on programs and opportunities for the City of Kitchener.
Excellent. Thanks. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Councillor Singh.
Sorry, thank you. And you know what, a lot of the questions I had in mind have been answered through questions through previous councillors, but I'll just, as an overview, go through, and thank you for coming forward and presenting. Now, you have on page 1-9, you have the layout of the different municipalities and what they funded in 2013, and of course the anticipation for 2014 as well. Does that coincide with 2012 and 11 as well, or?
Yes.
The same funding? Yes. So City of Kitchener, through earlier questions through Councillor Gazzola, you mentioned that City of Kitchener funds through our tax base, and then we have funding through our utility as well, or through?
We don't receive funding from the utilities, just from the city.
You don't get any funding through?
We have a great
Kitchener?
partnership with Kitchener Utilities, which helps Kitchener residents pay $60 less for a home energy evaluation.
So you wouldn't count that funding, or?
I would call it a subsidy from Kitchener Utilities directly to homeowners.
Okay, it's a support to the program, but it's the homeowner that
We
gets the...
appreciate it greatly.
Yeah, it's the homeowner that gets the immediate benefit of it.
That's right. And right now, it's a small, like 2 or 3 a month.
And it allows for a better uptake through programs.
Pardon me?
And it allows for better uptake for programs that are offered through...
When there is a program, it really helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right. And this is even going prior to this term of council. I think through our EDIF funding, we had funded $500,000 for home energy audits that were done for retrofit program for covering some of the cost, similar to what the feds and the province had, a program.
Right. That's an incentive. That's not funding to REAP. That's money that went directly to homeowners as a reward for making their homes more energy efficient. So
Who was
we
that
ma-
managed through?
Pardon me?
Was that managed through ourselves internally,
ma-
or REAP managed that?
REAP notified the city about the homeowners that completed retrofits and the amount they should be paid, and the checks went directly from the city to the homeowners.
But the program was managed and facilitated through REAP, though?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I was
That's
getting at, okay. And I'm not trying to give any criticism to you guys. I'm just trying to lay out the partnership that the City of Kitchener has had with REAP, the benefits, and comparing it with the other municipalities. And my later question is going to be, well, what have they done? So that's what I'm getting at. And the last point I was going to ask of is that we partnered in a program, RAIN program,
Yes.
where the City of Kitchener got funding, but I think REAP got funding as well. And that was a partnership program that we kind of coordinated with each other.
Yeah, that was huge. The city's LEAF grant enabled us to draw $1 million grant to the community, and we all applied together, the cities and REAP and Green Communities Canada, as a 4-way partnership.
Okay, so now speaking to all these 3 different partnerships, or the various ways that we've engaged each other to better benefit the community and the region itself, and especially Kitchener homeowners, what has the City of Waterloo and Cambridge done outside of the funding that they've been doing for the last few years?
Well, 2 of the funding things that you're talking about were through the Local Environmental Action Fund, which was fantastic, and we have not seen that level of funding from any other city, and we are sorry not to see it anymore from the City of Kitchener. It was the focus of our message in our 2011 annual report. What a fantastic stimulator that was for activity. When you look at some of the seed money that the city provided, and we were able to bring in money from the outside to the community for that. And there hasn't been anything like it in any other city here.
So outside of the 30,000 the City of Cambridge, or sorry, 15,000 the City of Cambridge gives, or has been giving on an annual basis, and 30,000 that's actually coming through the utility for the City of Waterloo, through Waterloo North Hydro, which is a separate arm, there hasn't been anything else outside of that.
The region of Waterloo has a small grant for a maximum of $15,000, and this past year we used that to put solar panels on the REAP house, or
Okay.
as it turned out, in the backyard of the REAP house.
Okay, so it's very fair to say that we've gone way above the call to help REAP, to help encourage the different programming that you guys facilitate in the community, and we've been a strong and good partner with you guys thus far.
Yes.
Okay.
The City of Kitchener has been the strongest partner.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So my last point is going to be 27,000 that you're requesting, 27,500. That's what component of that would be of your overall operation? I think you said 4% is through local funding. That would be even more minimal than the 4%.
The 27,500 represents 4% of the funding and revenue that we'll have for 2014.
Okay.
And then together with the other local partners, we're anticipating about 17% that represents.
Okay, so the 4% is the 27,000 then?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. And how long would you have in mind as part of your funding model that you would require this sort of assistance through the local municipalities? Is it going to be a way that this programming could be self-sustaining through user fees, or is this going to be very reliant, or that 17% portion of the operation is going to be reliant on local funding?
Well, what I'd say is that I hope the city sees a small foundational investment in an organization like ours as well worth it when you look at everything else we then bring ourselves into the community. such as the REAP House for Sustainable Living, which is a whole new asset and resource in the heart of the city that we have so far managed to continue to support ourselves through revenue from fee-for-service and our fundraising, and have not asked for an increase from the city or any of the other municipalities. So what we find is that just having a core that you know you can count on, so that somebody's there getting those grant applications out and making the work happen, makes all the difference in being able to sustain an organization.
I'll ask one last question, and then later for staff or comments. If this council were to choose not to carry on this type of funding for various different reasons, how would that impact your programming? Or would it?
It would send a message to us about what the city wants.
Even though we've done so much in the past, still?
It's been fantastic in the past. Look what we did with what you gave us.
Right.
Look what else we brought to the city.
Right.
We would probably have to make some tough decisions about the REAP House or about senior level leadership at the organization.
My question was missed a little bit. So
Okay.
is there something that you can actually touch on saying, because of this won't happen next year? And if it's too in-depth of a question at hand to be able to answer, I appreciate that, I understand. But if you can highlight, I think it would help me to make a decision on that.
I think it would have an impact on our ability to operate the REAP House.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you very kindly, Mary Jane and Dave, for your presentation and answering numerous questions. We will move to questions of staff. I'd like to remind council that to try and please be succinct. We are way over time budget on this item, okay? Starting with Councillor Yaneski.
Thank you very much. Question to staff. I'm not too sure which staff person. Malcolm, I assume. Kitchener Utilities has contributed $60 to each homeowner, which is separate from what the delegation was referring to, and then a $40 follow-up. How much money has the city contributed in the past, well, it says since 2002, on an annual basis?
Mr. Malcolm?
Through the chair, it depends on the number of residents that took up the offer. I don't have the exact numbers year by year, but we can get that for you. We did keep track of it, but I don't have that with me.
Okay, could you provide that before next Monday?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. And any other questions of staff? Not seeing any. Councillor Gazzola?
Just on a phone, do you have any idea what we've been paying out on an annual basis? Ballpark?
I would say, if anything, it'd be around the $20,000 mark.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I had a couple other questions, and I'm not sure what I did with them. Actually, that was one of the questions. The other question was on the take-up on the RAIN program. Was I correct when I said that it seemed in 2012 our rebates were way under budget, and yet we're being told that a lot of people took up on the program? There were 27 as much time take-up on the 2012 over 2011. The two don't tie in together.
Ms. Houston?
We can certainly follow up on that as well, but if wouldn't be a direct correlation because it's Waterloo and Kitchener in the REAP numbers, for one thing, and also the timing of when people have visits versus when they install measures versus when they apply for credits could be different as well. But we'll certainly follow up and provide some information.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm just curious as to whether we have a big take-up out there that hasn't been finalized that we'll have to deal with. Thank you.
Councillor Singh?
Yes, it's more of a budgetary question. So the 27,500, if we choose to make this, is this already built into our core budget, or?
Mr. Chapman?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, it is. There is an existing budget for the Environmental Committee. This would be funded from it. And I think in response to Councillor Yaneski's earlier question, The resolution says that subject to final budget approval, so a decision at committee today and even at council next week will simply refer this for final approval through the budget.
And that was going to be my later question as well. Okay, all right, thank you.
I don't see any questions here. I just have one, actually. I think it was covered in here, but is the amount the $27,500? Is that the total discretionary amount in the Environmental Committee's budget? Mr. Chapman?
Through the chair, certainly it's the majority of the budget. I believe, if memory serves, the budget's between $30,000 and $40,000 for all of the operations of the committee, so this does represent the lion's share of it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, could I get a mover for this item moved by Councillor Fernandez? Any comments? I'm not seeing any. Those in favor? And none opposed. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We will move on to item number 2, the gas rate follow-up. We do have a delegation for this item. Mr. Druitz.
Yes, good morning. I have handouts for the clerks, for the councillors, and also for the CAO and CAOs. I will skip the first paragraph to save time. Just summarize it in the sense that as you know, Bob Donald and I, we made a presentation on May 27th, and we were totally caught off guard with what was on the agenda for this morning's meeting. And I suggest that this is a major breakdown in the communications from the city to the public. And Mr. Chairman, as you are the finance chair, I would have liked to have seen, because of our interest in this issue, you would have at least given us a heads up to let us know that this was going to be discussed, as opposed to me doing my due diligence and seeing that this is discussed as per the agenda that was placed on the Kitchener's website on Thursday. So, going right to the second paragraph. Back then, we pointed out that the natural gas purchase policy dated October 17, 2006 is out of date and needs to be updated. This matter was discussed more often around the table than the issue of getting out of the natural gas business, and correctly so. However, to my amazement, the policy has still not been changed. This is a lot simpler to do than to get out of the gas business, and today we are looking at a report from staff as to why we should not return to a union system gas supply method. As per the minutes of the May 27th May 27th meeting, page 71, and I have the details, Councillors Gazzola and Glenn Graham asked several questions. Further looking at the June 10th, 2013 council meeting, page 133, Councillors Gazzola, Zing, and Glenn Graham made several proposals and requests, none of which is related to the report before us. This prompts the question, who is steering the City of Kitchener's corporate ship on this issue? Is it council or staff? I asked some members of council, and they do not remember council directing staff to do this report, nor do they remember council directing staff to bring back an updated natural gas purchase policy. Again, I suggest this is what should have been priority over the report we have before us. The majority of council, in my opinion, has an incorrect sequence of priorities on this natural gas issue. Usually, a corporation updates or fixes what is presently incorrect and then sets a pathway for the future. By the way, as was stated by one of you councillors during the debate, this, referring to KU's higher gas prices, is a very complex situation. Well, it is not. When one analyzes the prices over the last few years, it is very evident KU management purchased too much natural gas on futures contracts as the price was still going down during 2009. It is that simple. In summary, the following questions. Are the requests and proposals asked at the May 27th and June 10th meeting followed up and initiated? Who requested this report and why, seemingly, is this given priority when this was hardly debated at the referred to meetings? Has the natural gas policy been updated, and if not, why not? I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jewett. Questions, Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Druitz, for coming in. I think you've made a number of interesting points, but I guess one of the questions I have is you've identified that the issue that was, and I wasn't at the May 27th meeting, but I was at the June meeting, and I do remember the discussion being around the whole idea that we had bought too many futures. So is that what you're suggesting, that that's where the error and the problem is, and do you have a suggestion what should be done?
Well, if you look at the policy, which is dated October 17, 2006, in that policy there is no limit as to what, based on the expected usage that the city will have over the next 3 or 4 years, or Kitchener Utilities will have over the year 3 or 4 years by the residents, as to the percentage of the amount that should be on futures contracts, and I think that can be dangerous, and I think there are at least a couple of you that are financial analysts, and I think KU management at the time went beyond what is reasonable, and put all their eggs in one basket, which most people know is not the thing to do on something like this.
Okay.
So yes, the policy, when you review the policy, as I think identified by Councillor Gazzola in one of those meetings, he suggested that possibly, it should be reviewed. That was his suggestion. But at the same time, the futures purchasing should not go more than 50% of the anticipated usage for the next few years.
Okay. I had another question, but it slipped to my mind. I would like to ask the questions that the delegation has asked of staff. I will ask that one.
There'll be questions of staff.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, there are no further questions, Mr. Jewett. Thank you. Is there intention for staff to speak to this report? Ms. Houston?
Thank you, Chair Davey. No, we had no intention of speaking to the report. We felt the report spoke for itself, but I can certainly respond to the questions that the delegation has posed.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Okay.
So questions of staff then. First I have Councillor Gazzola.
I wasn't ready to be so fast. I must say that I did ask for you to look at Union Gas and the opportunity to ride their coattails again.
Councillor Gazzola, I can skip over to Councillor Fernandez. You want me to come back to you?
Well, I'm missing today's report. I've got the report of the 27th. Okay. I wanted. Why don't you come back to me in a minute, okay?
Not a problem. Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you.
I made some notes.
I think that the questions that the delegation asks are some fair questions, and I think that one of the concerns I have is that this report is really it tells us, I think, what we already kind of knew. So my question is first of all, number 3 that the delegation brought forward, and has the natural gas policy been updated? And if not, why not? And when will it be?
Just let me step back a second. There were 3 things that Council requested for staff to do. One was to review the year-end, whether it made more sense to be the seasonal year-end as opposed to the calendar year-end as the city other operations are, and finance staff did report back on that item. The second item was requested that whether it was an option for us to return to Union Gas Supply, and that was requested by Councillor Gazzola. And the third item was with respect to the purchasing policy, and it was agreed that that needed to be done in consultation with our users, and that we would be undergoing a comprehensive consultation with our users again in 2014. And at that point in time, we can bring back those results and consider whether we need to update our purchasing policy.
Okay. Just making a note of what you said. So I guess what I'm understanding here is that you're saying that this report came out of a request by Councillor Gazzola to understand how we could review buying from Kitchener Utilities or returning
Union Gas.
Union Gas?
Returning to Union Gas for our supply of gas, because that's the way it was done prior to 2000 or whenever we changed over to being our own supplier. Basically, the report in front of you is saying that's really not an option anymore. Union Gas has gotten out of that type of business. They treat us as a distributor ourselves. And one of the reasons we wanted to get away from Union Gas in the first place was we were subjected to retroactive charges that we would then have to pass on to our customers, and that was not helpful for our customers because they didn't like having retroactive charges.
So just piggybacking on my first question, I guess, is you're saying that we're not going to review the policy until 2014, and that will be in consultation with our users. And how long would that take for us to review the policy?
We haven't laid out a work plan at this point. I would say it would probably take a few months to do that.
Okay. I guess my concern here is that we're sort of delaying the process of reviewing the policy, and in the meantime, our users are paying through the nose, in a way, for utility rates. And that's a bit concerning because we're gaining a substantial amount of revenue on the backs of some of our customers. So at least that's my understanding, and if I'm wrong, I stand corrected.
You have to keep in mind that the bulk of our gas is already purchased. Our next opportunity to change rates is really usually next spring, so July. So we would plan to have the consultation and the policy review complete before our next time that we'd be changing rates.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Singh?
Yes, thank you. And a component of why this report did come back as well, apart from Councillor Gazzola's request to see if you could revert back to, I guess, the way we had agreement with Union Gas, was also to ask a question of, customer research focus, asking our ratepayers as to what they wanted. And that was a question I had asked the staff at that point of how we have done it in the past, and was it as extensive to get the full breadth of exactly what our ratepayers want. And so I'm glad to see that that would be a component of the 2014, strat plan. Reverting back to my original question would be, how extensive is it going to be? Is it going to be something similar to what we've done in the past of a small focus group, or will we be engaging our entire ratepayers as a survey, simple as survey sent through their utility bill, where each and every member would be able to have a say as to what they want?
Through the chair, we're going to utilize a number of options. One is a focus group where you bring customers in so that you can speak one-to-one with them, so that if there's any questions, or you can explain it a lot better than through a survey. Second point is using the website to ask the question, to explain what our purchasing policy is today, what the options are available, what the pros and cons, and then let them respond as to how they feel about that purchasing policy. Then through just interaction through the customers in our community events, typically when we meet with the community, we ask questions in regards to how we are doing as a utility, how are the rates, how do you view the rates, what do you want to see the rates to be. We ask a number of questions that help us to decide whether the policy is still active in the minds of our consumers or not.
When's the last time we did this review?
Be about 2008, 2009 was the last customer-focused survey that we completed.
Do we have a certain time frame that we do a general review like this, or just when it seems to make sense to do so?
Typically, it's when it made sense to do a review. As we said, we through the boom of the internet and emailing, we get a lot of questions from our consumers. A lot of questions come through our general email in regards to our purchasing policy, and all the customers that we've talked to basically agree with the current policy in place. They understand that they compare it to a variable or a fixed mortgage, and majority of our customers say that they have a fixed mortgage for the simple fact that they want to know what they're going to be paying for the next 5 years. Some of them that go on variable, that's their choice. But we haven't had any numerous calls in regards to the price of natural gas. There hasn't been an uptake from residents saying that they disagree with our purchasing philosophy to date. Typically what we try to do is, within 3 to 5 years, is complete a focus survey with our customers to touch base with them again.
Help me understand, although we're the supplier, as a customer, do you have the ability to buy through third party as well, or where?
Through the chair, yes, the consumer always has the opportunity to purchase their gas from a marketer. That's the way that the Ontario Energy Board has set up the regulations within Ontario. Local distribution companies similar to Union Gas, Enbridge, Kitchener Utilities, we are to supply the customers that have no interest in purchasing their gas supply from a marketer. We are the source of supply for them.
So there are options in the market?
Yes, there are. Yes,
so
there are.
There's not a monopoly through Kitchener Utility that we are the only source that they can go to?
No. If they choose to go with a marketer, they're free to do so. If they do not, then Kitchener Utility's obligation is to supply them.
Okay, that's actually very helpful information to have, especially when comments, or there's a impression that we are not being fair to our ratepayer, our utility users, that they do have a choice out there. Okay, beyond going back to, and I'll try to be succinct with my last point, going back to the customer research focus group. Of all the various different methods that you said that we would be utilizing, I'd like to go back to my initial comment and point. Why not reach out to every ratepayer? So to say that everyone had the opportunity, not to say they can't go online, but information can be sent where it's more of an interactive process with every ratepayer, so that we have a full breadth of understanding exactly what our customers want. So when important questions like that are raised this morning through various different groups, that we can go back and put our finger on and say this is what our ratepayers actually do want. And if they want different, then we should accordingly act to that. So why not?
Basically, the focus group, that process takes a lot of energy and time in regards to getting a wide, diverse group of customers. We do telephone survey as well, where we ask a number of questions of customers, but as you can appreciate, to hire a company to contact over 66,000 customers in the city of Kitchener.
I'm saying surveys sent to them with their utility bill.
Again, if you start sending out surveys, the percentage of people that will actually fill out a survey, we have a number of surveys that we have on our website, notify customers that if they cannot fill out through the website, that they can call into our office and we will assist them in filling out that survey. We just have not had the uptake of customers asking us to fill out more and more surveys over and over again. We can look at it, and we have, based on the May 27th meeting, looked at various options with firms that basically specialize in this type of survey work to provide what is their best opportunity for us to gather as much information as possible that you were seeking.
Okay, and this doesn't have to be discussed today, I guess. Council will have an opportunity to give appropriate feedback and input to staff as to which way to engage.
Yeah, prior to us going out to the community, we'll definitely come back to council to explain what the approach will be, give council the opportunity to make any suggestions that they feel are appropriate. One area might be, I'm not sure if the ward councillors have ward meetings with their constituents.
Of course.
If that is an opportunity, then Kitchener Utilities is willing to attend those meetings and talk to the residents at that time.
Okay, one quick last question of staff as to if we were to revert back to prior to 2000 with Union Gas, what would be the initial cost to do a kind of reverting program? Do we have to change a lot of models? Is there extensive cost to the utility as well at that, or outside of some hurdles that are internal, what are upfront costs?
Sure, I'll just give you what our purchasing program, what we have, fixed contracts out to 2018, just to give you an essence of the portfolio that we have based on a fixed portfolio. So for 2013, from September to December, we have 68% of our fixed gas purchased already, which is of a value of $8.1 million. In 2014, we have 47% of our gas fixed at $15.8 million. 2015, we have 31% fixed at $10.1 million. 2016, we have 19% fixed at $5.8 million. 2017, we have 10% fixed at $2.9 million. And in 2018, we have 8% at $2.3 million. Our annual gas supply program is approximately in the low $30 million range for the whole program. So that gives you an essence of what we've purchased already with fixed contract. If we were to have the requirement to get rid of those contracts, then we would have to pay the current market fees, which could be less than what we paid for the contracts, which in essence would increase the cost to the consumer at the end of the day to pay for that shortfall.
So it's not an easy flip?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gazzola?
Yeah, with that last answer, you answered a number of questions I had. I wondered what the annual consumption is. So our annual consumption is around $30 million worth of gas.
That's correct.
Yeah, and
that's for the supply component of it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that, and these figures are fixed. We can't get out of them. We've committed ourselves to $8 million for this year. That's it.
Through the chair, that is correct.
There's no way of getting out of that
without selling the contracts and then paying a fee to eliminate that.
Yeah, selling. But you couldn't sell the contracts for $8 million, right?
That's correct. It would be based on current market prices.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify some other points. I have some questions on, I can't quite agree with your take on going back to Union Gas, but I'll come back to that. First, I want to clarify, and it's something I wasn't clear on until we discussed with it last time, that when residents decide to purchase gas through another marketing agency, it really doesn't matter to Kitchener Utilities, right? Because we make our money from delivery.
That is correct.
And we have, so theoretically, everybody in the city could go to an outside third party. It wouldn't matter to us. We'd still make the same kind of money.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that I wanted to, because at one time we were sort of discouraging people to look at outsiders, right? And do we still do that?
No, we're by the Ontario Energy Board, the LDC, which Kitchener Utilities is part of, is not allowed to dissuade customers from going to a marketer.
But I think we did at one time.
I'm not sure. Before my time, I wasn't here at that time.
Take my word, we did. So, but your first paragraph, I don't quite understand. You say in theory, Kitchener Utilities. Could you just explain that, clarify that for me, what that means?
Basically, what we could start doing is not buy fixed contracts into the future. Basically, we can go to the spot market, similar to what Union Gas does for their customers, based on the Ontario Energy Board's approved rate mechanism for supply for Union Gas as well as Enbridge. So in theory, you can go back eventually. The fixed contracts that we do have in place, we could leave them as is, continue on with in the future years, as opposed to buying fixed contracts into the future. We would supplement that with the spot market price and then make adjustments on a quarterly basis similar to Union Gas.
Okay. So that is an alternative that we can look at.
That is correct.
Yeah, and going back to Union Gas, you're saying isn't an alternative.
Based on the regulation changes and the amount of work that would be required both on Union Gas's point of view as well as the going through the Ontario Energy Board, Union Gas is not interested in going to that sort of model. They're sort of happy that we went and decided to do our own gas purchasing because of the staffing resources that are required to monitor the gas purchases by the variety of our different customer groups.
Yeah, and I'm afraid I don't quite understand all that. I mean, I can appreciate going through your points that we do have contracts that we have to, we can't do anything about it. We have to suck up those costs, except I don't know what, for example, what is the market, the spot rate right now?
Without the in-house costs, we're probably looking at $3.86 a gigajoule, which is probably, with the transportation component, you're probably looking at what we're paying right now, so probably around the 14-cent mark.
14-cent mark? And we're paying 16 and a half?
Currently, we're at 16 and a half. With the gas purchases that we have in place for the rest of the year, we're at that around 16.5% mark. When we get into the future years, 2014 and 2015, based on our contracts and the current forecast price for spot market in 2014, 2015, we're a bit higher than the 16 and a half. When we look at 2016 with our fixed costs and the potential what the spot market could be, we're equal to the 16 and a half. And in 2017, based on our fixed contracts, we're slightly less than 16 and a half. So for the next 4 to 5 years, we're around that 16 and a half mark. And basically what customer research has told us, they want to have that stable rate. So at 60.5% for the next 4 or 5 years, if everything goes as according to what the energy markets are suggesting, the customers in Kitchener would be seeing a steady rate for the next 3 to 4 years, based on supply only.
Well, I have some comments after on that research that you did with 250 customers, but I still don't quite understand if we wanted to buy bulk gas from Union Gas, why we couldn't do that.
Basically, they would have to set up agreements with some of our direct purchase customers and other customers that have marketing licenses. There has to be a number of agreements that are set up, so legal costs, legal agreements. The Union Gas and ourselves would have to approach Ontario Energy Board to seek amendments to the regulations to allow them to set up tri-party agreements within the City of Kitchener to handle that gas supply component.
Why would they have to do that?
Councillor Gazal, if I can interrupt, I just want to clarify then. So you're asking about purchasing the outside of contract rates from Union Gas. Was that your question?
My question is why we can't head back to purchasing our gas.
Okay, yeah, and that's interesting because the very last paragraph of the report sort of answers that. It makes much of the report moot, if you ask me, because it says from a rate perspective, Council could achieve the same outcome for Kitchener Utilities as returning to Union system by simply adopting its spot purchasing program, which we can do. So we don't necessarily have to buy it directly from Union Gas, but we can start buying spot rate.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, on that though, why would those customers are our customers? Why would Union Gas be involved in that?
Basically, it's to balance out the requirements because they are buying their gas and then bringing it into Union Gas storage facilities for distribution to the end customer. They would need to know on a meter-by-meter basis as to what is the consumption of each of these customers that are through a marketer, so that when they're purchasing gas on behalf of these customers, as well as the remaining supply customers that do not want a marketer, they would have to take ownership of making sure that they purchase enough gas and put it into storage at the appropriate times so that there's enough available for all customers in their service territory.
Spot prices change daily?
Yes, they do.
If we were buying on the spot market, we don't have to change, we can change our rate once a year?
Basically, the way that the market is currently and the way that Ontario Energy Board wanted to ensure that the customers didn't feel a rate shock once a year is that they required the regulated utilities to do a quarterly update to determine how much gas has been purchased at what price and then to balance it out. So in essence, they want to make sure that 4 months of the year or 3 months of the year that the true ups are there. So if Union Gas purchased the gas at a higher rate than what they were charging their customers, that within 3 months they would start have a mechanism in place to ensure that they recover those costs without having a huge rate shock to the consumer. So right now, if you're a Union Gas customer, you see a price for gas that they predict is on the spot market that they're purchasing, and then there's typically either a credit or a debit on that bill based on the past 3 months of what they actually purchased it at.
But if we were to buy under the spot market, would we come under the OEB, or could we manage that without that?
I feel we would have to go to the same quarterly update mechanism that Union Gas and Enbridge utilize, for the sake that after a course of a year, depending on what happens in the marketplace, there could be a substantial rate shock to the consumer if we went on an annual basis that we currently do today.
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question. Do we come under the OEB, or is that a choice that we have?
I don't think we'd fall under the Ontario Energy Board.
Okay.
We still have the right to set our rates through council.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Okay, I have some comments that I would like to make. I guess I have a question. So you don't see us making any changes here for several years down the road?
The research will be completed the first part of 2014, prior to the rate change application that we would put forth in July 1st. We would have a recommendation to council in regards to the purchasing program and what the research from our consumers have told us. So I believe that before July 1st of 2014, we would have the information that council can look at what are the options available to us. In the meantime, while we're doing the customer research, we can look at the various options of what we would need to do as Kitchener Utilities in regards to staffing or getting consultants to do a spot market price purchasing strategy.
But council will be in a position in the early part of 2014 to consider going to the spot market?
That is correct. We would do the initial research over the winter time while we're in conjunction with the customer research, so that we can provide you with the best advice and what the pros and cons are of going to a spot market, what we would need to do, and what would be the cost of switching over to that. Based on our fixed contracts, we could also advise you as to what would happen with those fixed costs and what would happen to the prices that we would see in the city of Kitchener.
Yeah. Under the current method of operating, who makes these decisions on what contract we acquire and at what price? Who is making that, and what basis is there for
we have a commodity risk committee that was set up that we meet on a quarterly basis. We have 2 consultants on board that basically know the market, what's happening out in the energy market fields. The team consists of myself, the Deputy CAO of Infrastructure Services, the Deputy CAO of Financial Services, our Manager of Regulatory and Supply Affairs, Manager of Asset Optimization, Senior Financial Analyst, and a Regulatory Analyst, in conjunction with the 2 consultants that we have.
Okay. So we have 2 outside consultants.
That's correct.
I'm amazed when I look at 2012 figures. For almost the entire year, we were paying 3 times the market spot rate. How do those consultants rationalize that?
Mr. Chapman?
Perhaps Mr. Malcolm can elaborate on it, but there's been a long-standing practice of maintaining a rails approach to gas purchase, and so we've set a minimum amount and a maximum amount that we will hedge annually, and that's what ensures basically a consistent philosophy year over year. And so I believe we purchase out over 5 years, and the rails are at higher values in the earlier years, and they fall off towards the latter years. I don't know if Mr. Malcolm can comment further, but ultimately we've wanted to avoid speculation to an extreme in the market, and so we've set those upper and lower limits. I don't know, Mr. Malcolm, if you have those details here today.
Basically what we look at through the consultants is determine where the price of gas will be going. So whether there's a neutral feeling out in the marketplace, whether the gas prices are going to be bullish, where prices are increasing, or bearish, where they're in a falling market. They meet on a regular basis in regards to in a North American environment, where a number of consultants get together and talk about almost on a weekly basis in regards to where is the natural gas pricing going. They also look at where the industry is going in regards to weather being a major factor. So basically, when hurricanes started hitting in the Gulf Coast, that impacted a number of gas plants within that Gulf community. When they have to shut down their supply, and through general economics, when the supply is not there and the demand is high, prices also go up as well. So it's a dynamic world. Back in the 2012, you have to recall that we purchased gas in the 2008 when there was a financial crisis within North America. Prices were skyrocketing. If you can remember, the price of a barrel of oil was going up to $150 a barrel. There was no end in sight of what was going on. We continued to use our disciplined approach in regards to the rail system and only purchase gas that we felt was required based on the decision-making practices. And what we're faced with today is basically that prices of gas were up in the $8 to $9 range, where today they're at $3. Union Gas, coincidentally, in that 2008 period before the financial crisis, was instructed by the Ontario Energy Board to get out of doing a similar fixed-based contract pricing. So in essence, it was timing is the beauty of all when you're dealing with Union Gas's pricing, because when they had to get out of it is when the market turned down. And of course, with the pricing of gas going down, their customers benefited from going onto a spot market price. If the Ontario Energy Board did not regulate them to do that prior to that financial crisis, you'd be seeing similar pricing from Union Gas.
Although I look here over the period between 2009 and 2013, Union's rate on the spot market is very close to the market rate. So they've guessed right a lot more than they have wrong.
It's not guessing. It's basically going by the market.
Well, that's right.
There's no guessing when you're doing that. You're basically buying what you require at a certain period of time, and whatever the price is at that period of time is what you're going to be paying. Then every quarter they have to update their rates with their consumers to make sure that they're recovering the total cost of purchasing that gas.
Okay, just like I said, I have a comment, but just one theoretical question, that if we were to get back to the spot market and we wanted to only increase our prices annually, and if there were some small differentials, is the system allowed to eat those differentials?
Currently, no. We are not allowed to assume any excess or deficit charges as part of the supply program. It has to be neutral. So whatever we pay for that supply commodity, we have to pass it on to our consumer.
And does it, okay, I'll leave it at that. I'll come back to that when you bring us a report when we're looking at this further. Okay? But okay, if I can, thank you.
Actually, Councillor Gazzola, we're way behind. If you want to make your comment, I'd appreciate it if you'd...
Yeah, you want me to talk faster? Okay, I would like to, I asked staff for information was provided to me, giving me the actual figures on a month-to-month basis, if I could get that right up to the end of the year. I was provided up to the middle of July. It ties into the graph that is, it's the same figures. My only comment is that we really need to look at this, and we need to look at it closely, and we need to look at it as soon as we can, because since 2009, our rates have been 90% over what the market rate is. So I think our consumers have paid, and it's something that we do need to have a close look at. I really think we need to, and by the way, I have a report here, a survey. I think I heard that it was done in 2008 and 2009. There's one here on June the 6th, 2012. Corey did it, and we asked questions like, very simple questions. do you prefer stable rates that is consistent natural gas prices over time? Of course, everybody says that. And the second part of it is, or would you have variable rates where the price fluctuates up or down with the market? And of course, people said no. But that doesn't really tell people the differential. In June of 2012, when that question was being asked, we were paying 21 cents compared to the market rate of 7. That's 3 times as much. If people had that aspect, I think the answers that we would have received on a survey would be much different. So I think we need to look at that. We've been off of the spot purchasing for 6 or 7 years. We're really harnessed in for at least the next 2 or 3 years. But I would hope when staff come back that we have a full report as to what we're doing and how, if possible, we can get away from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Yaneski?
Thank you. Question to Mr. Malcolm, if you can come back again, appreciate that. A question was raised by Mr. Gazzola in regard to the reliance on the spot pricing, and you indicated it changes on a daily basis, and the change on the daily basis could be as a result, as you pointed out, of weather, a hurricane of some type. Would it also apply to stuff of wars, a threat of a war somewhere in the Middle East or in the Far East or wherever, and that type of concern of the future supply? That ties in even with like typical gasoline. When you hear these issues happen, the price of gas at the pumps goes up, whatever within the next few days or thing, or the week. So that's really the same thing with natural gas. If you do that spot pricing.
That is correct. It varies on a daily basis. If you get into a very hot summertime and you need electricity generation beyond what is available with coal-fired stations in the U.S. or nuclear, the next available option is to switching over to natural gas. As you can imagine, if you get a long heat wave and the air conditioning load goes up, more electricity is required, which means more burning of natural gas, which again, supply and demand goes up, and it depends on where the supply is, will determine the price moving forward. Other nations, sort of like China and Japan, depending on their economies, they like to import a lot of natural gas based on the price that is available. So a number of North American and European countries that have supplies of natural gas are building what is called liquefied natural stations on the coastline so that they can liquefy the natural gas, ship it over to these countries so that they can utilize the natural gas from the company. So there is a number and variety of different equations and inputs into the pricing of natural gas. If a policy of the Canadian or the American government or somewhere in Europe makes a decision on how you obtain the natural gas from the ground, that could have a major dramatic impact on the supply component of natural gas and how companies can afford to extract the natural gas from the ground.
Okay, appreciate your answer, and I can understand the circumstances. So my last question then basically is whether you have spot pricing, which you would be looking at on a daily basis or a weekly basis, whatever, versus where you've got short-term purchases. I mean, when you're looking at a more of a committed time frame, would you at that time say, oh, geez, we're time to review our contracts, and there's issues of concerns of storms or war, and all of a sudden the prices are escalating? Wouldn't you at that time say, well, wait a second, let's just maybe hold off until prices drop before making a commitment? Or are you committed at that point in time to get into trying to find some reasonable price?
As Mr. Chapman mentioned, we have a rails approach where we have a maximum and a minimum rail where we buy our gas in depending on what we require at that point in time. We do meet and we do receive monthly reports in regards to what's transpiring in the marketplace. If it looks like gas is potentially in a good spot right now and there's potential of it moving up based on weather or based on other events, we make our decisions based on that. But we don't exceed the rails that we have put in place. We make sure that it's within that approved policy.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
I just have, pardon me, a couple of quick questions. I like the mortgage analogy, and I assume that in the customer feedback and the survey, there will be a hybrid approach as well as spot market versus long-term contracts, because that seems to be the obvious solution, but we have to wait for it to come back. Okay, great. And my only other question is on, do we still offer equalized billing?
Yes, we do.
Okay, can you just explain that very briefly in case it's...
Basically taking what the consumer would utilize in a given year, break it out into 12 equal payments, and then doing a true-up at the end of the yearly term to make sure that if on average, because winter is your high-end use, that over the 12 months you're paying, say, $80 a month, as opposed to in the summertime maybe paying $30 and in the wintertime paying $180. So instead of having that fluctuation of up and down during the course of the year, it balances and equalizes the payment over the whole 12 months of the year to ensure that you have a monthly balance that is known to you and that you can afford.
Good. Do you have an idea how many of our customers are on equalized billing? If you don't, that's okay.
I don't have that, but we can get that for you.
So I guess at least a year at a time, if customers are concerned about rate stability, they have that option available to them. Okay. Those are my only questions. I'll just comment. I see Councillor Singh probably has a comment as well. I'll comment very briefly that my thinking is along the lines very similar actually to Councillor Gazzola's. I think we need to look much closer to the spot rate pricing. Having said that, no one's implied it, but if staff is guilty of anything here, it's really that they couldn't predict the future, because the reality of the situation of the multiple time differential between what other gas customers pay and what KU people pay is due entirely to unforeseen market conditions. Having said that, we can tweak it in the future, and I suspect and I hope that when the feedback comes back, it will be a combination of spot rate pricing and contract. So there is some stability, but we're also getting some value. Councillor, Mr. Chapman, do you have a comment?
Just to respond to your question, I'm advised that approximately 5,000 out of 63,000 residential customers are on equalized billing.
63,000, wow, it's lower than I would have guessed. Thank you. Councillor Singh, comment?
Yes. A quick follow-up question to your line of questioning, Mr. Chair, with equalized billing. If we were to switch over to the union gas model, would we still be able to do equalized billing, or would that?
Yes, you can keep on. It's a decision of the municipality to offer that service.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to clarify that. And my comment is, I think it's pretty much of a no-brainer that I think in-depth review as to the way we do things is definitely a long time coming. We need to assess exactly how we want to incorporate the utilities. I don't think it's a decision I would want to make. I think I have to be cognizant of what the ratepayers want, and ultimately they have to pay at the end of the day. But whatever review process is going to take place, it has to be a very comprehensive and involving process that allows as much input as allowable. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, there's no action required here. Thank you. 12 o'clock, right on time. Oh, wait, we have another item. Just kidding. Moving on to item number 3, the Kitchener Market update. Afternoon.
Good morning, Chair Davey and members of committee. I'm here before the council to give you an update on the Kitchener Market, and there's 3 areas of our agenda that I'll be speaking to. Do we have? It's coming. We're going to get the slides. There we go.
Okay.
So I'll speak to business financials, the physical building, and the strategy. The Kitchener Market is financed through 2 budgets, I just want to focus on the top 4 lines. Something happened here. Okay, so I'll focus again on the top 4 lines. So the first line of the revenue at the Kitchener Market, you'll notice the good news story is that the revenues historically from 2004 to 2012 have grown each year. Our expenses have decreased every year with the exception of 2010, which is when we built the Marketplace Kitchen. So overall, our net operating costs has decreased every year. And within the 3-year period, we've decreased our net operating costs within the Kitchener Market operations by approximately $181,000. So the next line, what I've done is I've included the facilities management budget in order to give you a full picture of the costs to run the Kitchener Market. Even when I add the Kitchener Market net operating costs with the facilities management net operating costs, you'll see that it's decreased year over year, which is a good news story. And in 2013, we are very optimistic and encouraged that these trends will continue. Future considerations. The relevance of this slide is that our 2 sources of revenue primarily come from vendor stall space and on the upper and lower market, as well as craft tables, and as well the marketplace through rentals and cooking classes. Our stall space is currently at 98% capacity, and we're currently working to fill that 100%. So the only growth that you'll see from that area of the business is through the annual fee that's applied through inflation. So the potential to grow is certainly through our rentals and our cooking classes in the marketplace. But having said that, we also will have experienced expenses that we tied to that growth. Currently, we are stretched with the staffing resource that we have. We have 4 full-time staff. One of those is the full-time custodian. One is an event coordinator and business development, and the other one is a program assistant. So the 10 part-time staffing is utilized for Saturday market, and at any one time we would have 7 to 8 staff on a Saturday, and that would do the coverage from 2 a.m. till 9 p.m. So as well, there would be variable costs tied to growing the marketplace. With regards to the physical building, last year, Council made a great decision to approve the $100,000 we were given to do the acoustic marketplace roof. That construction was done in January to March of 2013 and has been very well received and extremely successful. We've been able to increase our programming, and the overall marketplace experience has been well received. We continue to do a lot of different upgrades to the Kitchener Market that will offer easy access for all patrons. As we speak right now, we have some temporary repairs that are happening to the covered area in the breezeway. The marketplace topping of the floor has been damaged due to just regular market day activity. And so what we're doing is some temporary fixes this year and in 2015 in order to postpone the eventual replacement of that topping, which should occur in 2017 to 2018, and that would be a report later on that'll come to Council. We're working with facilities management and with the Transportation Department and the consultant. A physical upgrade, we just, for future consideration, we are a demo kitchen, which limits some of the programming, and so we want to take a look and evaluate whether it's worthwhile. We may remain a demo kitchen, but we may upgrade the programming opportunity. I do want to draw your attention a little bit to the growth over the next 5 to 10 years in the Market District. If you take a look at the map, that shows the development in the downtown. The inner circle, it's a 5-minute walk from the market. It shows that within the next 5 to 10 years, we'll have 600 additional residential units, which equates to an additional 1,000, approximately 1,000 people. I do want to point out that Lot 18 on that same map, which is the corner of Madison and King, there is some proposed development. I don't know what time frame we're looking at, but that's the surface lot that's used for our vendors, vendor trucks, and certainly our customers on a Saturday. I feel very optimistic that we have enough parking in our downtown for customers. However, it's a matter of educating them and as to where alternative parking is available. And we do have a couple options that we'd have to explore with regards to the vendor trucks. Overall, the redevelopment, though, doing a 25-minute walk from the downtown, we're looking at over 1,000 additional residential units, which equates to approximately 4,400 additional people in the downtown. Now I'll talk to our strategic goals, and I'll go into more detail with the business sustainability and touch on the culinary cluster, brand awareness, and then taking a look at next year and beyond. So this is currently the model for the lower market vendor breakdown. We have 72 market vendors on a Saturday in our lower market. What I want to draw your attention to is that 40% of the model represents farmers, and of that 40%, that half of them are MyPick verified, which that 40% is 28 farmers in total, so 14 are MyPick verified. And what that means is that we've had an inspector go out to those farms, and he has verified, in fact, that everything that they bring to market on a Saturday is grown at that farm, and as well that he evaluates as well their production plan. So to put it in perspective, when I talk to Farmers Market Ontario, they're really impressed with those kind of statistics for our market, and the average market they claim is 1 to 2 MyPick verified farmers. So we're pretty pleased about that. Why we think that model is working for us is that, in fact, we have done statistics. We've gathered the data in 2012 and 2013, and you can see that we've grown up almost 8.5% from year to year. Another thing that I want to draw your attention to is that if you look at the growth that's happening on King Street, so at the front door, and then E.B. King, you'll see that's where the biggest increase is. And what was done differently is that we were actually programming our piazza. So we had music, and we've got more people in our downtown, so it's drawing more crowds into the market, which is another good news story. When we look at lunchtime traffic, we certainly have increased that, and how we've done that is last year we did the Downtown Live program. This year we worked with Transportation Department, and we launched a Bike It You Like It program for 8 weeks, and we had up to 50 people biking from City Hall to the market for lunch. So it was very well received, and we'll continue to promote the biking. We've also, when we do have rentals, we foster partnerships to increase awareness. We always advertise what else is available, but as well we then can tie in our international food court, which is 10 vendors, to offer catering for those rental opportunities. In the last 18 months, I will say that 6 out of the 10 owners of our international food court vendors have we've experienced that turnover, but it was turnover due to life changes, and actually one of our vendors opened up a restaurant in the Waterloo region, so that's good news. With regards to the marketplace, our statistics, you'll see that what I've included here is the steady growth shown from 2011 to 2012 on the cooking classes, rentals, and internal events. Then, as you recall, we were under construction, so the marketplace was closed for 3 months. So I've got the stats for the second quarter of this year. I want to draw your attention to the fact that the rentals that we did in all of 2012, we matched in 1 quarter of this year. And we forecast doing 96 in total. So that's as a direct result of council's decision for that acoustic roof, and we're able to actually carry out a lot of corporate events, education events. People can hear everybody talk. I mean, it's going very well received. The cooking classes, the growth in that, I want to just let you know that we were awarded a Hellman's grant for 2000, and we built out the Kids in the Kitchen program, which runs every Saturday. And we have in excess of 100 people attending that. So there's a lot of activity, and it's very well received and embraced by the community, the marketplace as a whole. Now looking at the culinary cluster, the Kitchener Market has a significant role to play. Under one roof, we have the farmer who plants the seed up to the consumers that are purchasing the farmer's goods. We have chefs that are upstairs cooking in our international food court. We have our own chefs that are teaching and educating all demographics and all ages in our kitchen. I think that we can be a catalyst and certainly instrumental in developing the food economy in the Waterloo region. And I think what we need to do going forward is to explore those relationships and start putting plans together to do more things. We've seen that we're a bit of a launch pad for the International Food Court when they go on to open up a restaurant past that. We also have worked with the Small Business Centre to launch the program on an annual basis on how to start a food business. So we'll continue to partner and do more things. It's in its infancy, but there's huge growth opportunities that need to be explored. Our brand awareness, we work very strategically and very closely with the communications and marketing department. A couple of things that we've done this year that has been extremely successful is we launched our monthly e-newsletter, and in a short period of time, we launched it in March, we have in excess of 2,000 customers, and the open rate far exceeds industry standards. So we're getting a lot of great feedback, we're educating, we're making the community aware of what's going on in our market. The other thing is that we've launched in April of this year a new website. The website has had, since April, 25,000 visits to that site, which is quite remarkable. So we're really pleased with the progress there. We have increased our presence at external events where it makes sense. The Total Women's Show, we have a 2-day where we program the stage and we showcase our local foods that our chefs are using. We engage the downtown restaurants as well, so we're promoting beyond the market, but it's all good. It's just to bring more people downtown, and I think we're touching probably in that weekend in excess of 5,000 people. We had our very first wedding this year. It was 200 guests. The marketplace transformed beautifully. It was very well received and extremely successful event. So we are going to go to the wedding show this year and just to see where that may lead us with regards to rentals of the space. Our partnerships, I'll just mention certainly the community access bicycles. We have installed, in fact, our bike rack, and we're partnering with the Working Centre and with the transportation, Josh, because we see a lot of success with regards to people biking to the market. Now, taking a look at 2014 and beyond, we need a 3-year strategic plan, at least. So we'll focus on that in our first quarter. We'll continue to build partnerships. We do have in November the bus tour operators and we're working and partnering with the Waterloo Tourism in order, and we'll be serving them lunch and showcasing our chefs and our local foods in the marketplace. So we're hosting that in November. With regards to connecting with our community, we did a survey in the springtime of 2012, and we plan to run that again in 2014, early 2014, in order to gather data to build out our strategic plan. So now what I've done, I'm going to launch our new video that showcases certainly the Saturday market and midweek market and some of our programming. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. There are a number of questions, starting with Councillor Gazzola.
Is that a new logo? Was that a new logo?
Is that a new logo?
Yeah. No?
No.
Okay. I'm glad you handed out this, because I was going to ask a couple of questions. What does the facility management expense, what does that include?
Through you, Chair, just to clarify, you're asking me what does the facilities management
Expenses, what are
expenses?
those for?
It includes the utilities, so heat, hydro, electricity, water, and it also includes maintenance, primarily to the outside of the building.
Okay. How about on the inside of the building?
There are larger items that are usually included in the facilities management if they're bigger projects.
Yeah. Well, okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, like for instance, the acoustic repair to the roof. There was some consulting that was handled through FM.
Are there capital expenditures also involved with the market?
Yes, there would be.
What do they run normally on an annual basis?
Do you mean from FM?
Or from whatever, are there costs of maintaining the building, basically.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have approximately $100,000 every year for capital expenditures. And just to back up on the operating side, the facilities management operating budget looks after heating, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, a little bit of custodial work, doors, floors, overhead doors, ongoing maintenance. When you bring 5,000 people through the facility every week, we run into issues with stuff gets broke, so we have to fix it.
Yeah, okay, but so there's another 100,000, at least 100,000 or so annually for capital works.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, what we've done over the past couple of years is we've built that up, and we've paid for some of the market renovations, the kitchen renovations. We're putting it into when we have to do upgrades to the electrical systems and the mechanical systems. That's a capital expenditure.
Do we see any major capital works in the next 10 years?
We've been having some issues with the roof, and that's since day one. So there's some issues with the skylights down there. We'll probably end up removing them over the next several years.
And if you did something like that, what kind of costs are you looking at? Ballpark.
Hopefully, we're allowed to carry on with our 100,000 and build that up. It's a metal roof, so we would probably spend in the range of 150,000 to fix all that up.
Thank you. Do you, this is for Mr. Pierre, do you ever see this as a break-even operation?
I'm sorry.
Do you ever see the operation of the market as a break-even so that the revenues coming in match the expenditures going out?
Through you, Chair, I've been the interim market manager for 18 months, and quite frankly, it's very difficult to predict. I mean, we didn't know necessarily, we don't have pricing for the roof at this time. We don't have the pricing for the flooring, so.
Okay, what does 2013 look like? We're done now, what, 2/3 of the year? What kind of results are we having for this year?
Currently, our net operating costs year to date, as of the end of September, are $141,000.
Mr. Regier, you wanted to add?
Just through you, Chair Davey, just with regard to Councillor Gazzola's question regarding break-even proposition. It's impossible to run a facility of this size with essentially a one-day-a-week major market, and I think it does beg the question of when, at what point, we'll be able to move to a multi-day market. It's not something that we think is feasible within the next 5 years, but looking out to a period of time when we see LRT fully operational with a Kitchener Market station at Cedar and Charles, when we see those additional 1,000 residential units within a 5-10 minute walk of the Kitchener Market and increased employment in this area, I think we can forecast that we'll be able to move towards at least another day a week, perhaps even more. As the city intensifies down the mixed-use corridor of King Street towards Charles or towards Ottawa Street, it'll increase the viability of potential additional days in the Kitchener Market. So what I'd encourage Council to do is think about the evolution of the market in terms of 5- and 10-year horizons. As the city intensifies, we'll certainly be able to increase the utility and the revenue generated by that facility.
Now, do you ever see it being a break-even proposition?
I would say not within the next 5 years. Perhaps looking out to 10 years, it's a possibility.
Can you tell me a little bit about the rents that we charge our vendors on the Saturday? Where do they stand?
I'll ask Mrs. Feary to answer that.
Through you, Chair, we just had a an evaluation done in 2011, and it was implemented. So they standardized all the rents, and we are looking at a variety of rentals because depending on what the need is, whether they have a cooling system, whether they have a dry table, depending on whether they're indoors or outdoors. So there's a range across the board.
Are they as high as they should be?
The evaluation was done in 2011 prior to me being there, so I'm not comfortable commenting, but I would assume that the implementation of those rates, and you can see by the increase in the revenues for that particular year, that in fact we're showing that it was reasonable. I mean, I can't imagine increasing it beyond what we've got other than inflation rate at this point.
Thank you.
Councillor Ioannidis.
Thanks, Kim, for your presentation, and I know it's a daunting task for you to look after everything there and what the circumstances you've been under there. But so far it looks like really great and looks promising for the future. And I guess my couple of questions I have is, one, I guess, pertaining to St. Jacobs Market and whether or not that is related to any new business, because I see, unfortunately, that's the circumstance that has occurred in St. Jacobs. But there's notice that there's a 2% vacancy rate for our vendors. Has that translated into any new vendors at all?
Through you, Chair, the 2%, in actual fact, prior to the fire happening, we had a list of vendors that were waiting to hear from us, and we were evaluating the applications. When the fire happened, we put a hold on that, and we offered up the spots to St. Jacobs. What's happened is that I have had response from one vendor, and we will probably see through to opening an opportunity to them, and then we will tackle the other list to fill. It'll be filled within the next month.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that. I guess my other question is to the upgrades to the marketplace with the acoustics and everything else, and the challenges that we had to get that through, and seeing how extraordinary that's the turnaround result as it is already. What is the future gains that you think that we could achieve with that as a facility? Like, that place could be rented on a daily basis, or?
Through you, Chair, when we came and when we asked for the money to council, we said at that time we'd have a 22% return on the money. And despite being shut down for 3 months of this year, we will probably show revenues of $20,000 from the marketplace. So we are on target if I prorate that, and we've exceeded it just slightly. So going forward, what we want to do is we're just starting to build our clientele with regards to the corporate vendors or corporate rentals in the downtown. We want to do a more formal corporate launch, and we're getting on board just through word of mouth, Manual Life, TD, some of the big players in the downtown. So we want to build up our portfolio and our clientele for during the daytime, because then we have staff already working. We have the potential to do a second shift and have coverage depending on the type of rental that would be attractive. We do get a lot of bridal showers, wedding showers, that type of thing, this evening events. And so we will be looking at staffing that, and I mean, we can go weekends, we can go second shift, that's where we can grow it.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of potential growth.
Yes.
That there's to be had. Okay, just, can we give comments after, or?
Yeah, we'll do comments afterwards.
Okay.
Thanks,
Kim.
Thank you.
Councillor Glenn Graham.
Thank you very much, Chair Davey. And Ms. Feary, great job on the report, very thorough, and you answered a lot of questions, I think, as you went through it. In terms of the corporate rentals, have we looked at partnerships possibly with corporate team builders, that kind of thing, that just as we do with chefs, we bring in people that might be able to tie into our facility? Have we looked at that?
Through you, Chair, corporate team rentals, do you mean by that corporate chef challenges, that type of team building exercise? Is that what you're referring to?
That's a good example of it, but I mean, there's corporations that do team building exercises, and that they have templates and trained people. We don't have the staff for that. And I wouldn't ask that of you, but if they knew about this facility, they could use that, their expertise in our facility. I'm just wondering if that's been considered.
Yes, and we've actually hosted a few of them already. So it's just a matter of doing that corporate launch and continually advertising and making the public aware of what's available. We do have contacts within large corporations in the area for the HR department, and we're targeting them specifically.
That's great.
Yes.
That's a great start. In terms of the traffic flow, could you talk about the charge for the police person? How much does that cost every Saturday?
Through you, Chair, that cost is, I believe, $660 a day, I believe. I know we're looking at a line item of perhaps, and I am guessing, I think it's around $18,000 per year.
Okay.
The thing is, though, it is a necessity. There is so much congestion around that block that from a safety perspective, we do need it.
I understand from a current model point of view it is, absolutely. And in addition to which there's bottlenecking on, I think it's EB Street with people parking along the sides, and I think that needs to be looked at. Where I was going with this, and I was going to get into it later, was asking transportation to do an evaluation of creating one-way flow around the streets so that we may not need that, but that's a separate item I'll leave for later. In terms of staff capacity, could you talk about whether your staff are at capacity, below capacity, or over capacity in terms of workload?
Through you, Chair. The staffing is, we're doing more work now with the same staff that we had prior to the marketplace being built, and certainly programmed to the extent we're programming it. I think we've done a phenomenal job, but yes, we are tapped out. Like, there's not a lot of room to take on extra. We have, in order to get through some of these difficult times, what we've done is we've tapped in with our volunteer services within the city, and we're utilizing them on large events, and they've been very helpful. We also have tapped into different programs, so event programs within Conestoga, that we've just signed up a new intern, a girl doing her internship, who is going to gain experience at the market. So we're utilizing every avenue with regards to volunteers, or even we have a partnership with Cameron Heights for the students getting their 40 hours. We have a church group that wants to launch a program to carry groceries to people's cars. So we're taking a look at a lot of different things where we can utilize volunteer services and also internship opportunities.
I think that's fabulous that you've looked at creative opportunities. I think we would have probably suggested that too, but I think that's wonderful that you're proactive. Have we ever looked at bicycle deliveries for people that are shut in, or those kinds of things? Have we ever looked at deliveries to people?
Through you, Chair, no, we haven't. But
in terms of the website, do we post the kinds of food that people can get? Do we have a breakdown of all the different vendors that the people can, the food that they can get at the market?
Through you, Chair, when we launched in April, we do have a vendor tab, and it identifies every vendor and a little blurb about each. So we've already got that in place currently, so that's good.
And the upper market, the International Food Court, we've got all those listed?
Yes, we do. And additionally, with the e-newsletter, we rotate advertising a vendor in the upper level and one in the lower level, just to draw traffic.
Right. do they have a phone they can take orders if a corporation wanted to put in an order to the food court, like a specific area, that they can get it prepared in advance?
Some of the stalls have it, but not all.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Neski?
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate all the information you've provided. Just a few questions. Councillor Gazzola mentioned about the logo, that there's been no changes, but yet when you come along the highway, it says your farmer's market. I thought that was the logo still. Now you're saying it's this one?
There was a brand change, and I can't speak to it 100% because I wasn't here then, but I know they took a look at rebranding in 2008, and there was a vote done by the community, I believe, and it was decided that they would drop the "your" and it's just Kitchener Market. And so the new branding was with the piece of wheat out of the K, and it was every reason, every season. So that has been the brand, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, since 2008 for sure, or 2009.
Okay. Just sometimes you see on the highway signs, it still hasn't been changed. I know you got to go to the province for that, and that's another story. When tourists are coming into the Kitchener on a Saturday and coming into along King Street, somehow they would just go right by the market and miss it. It's sort of tucked in from Kitchener. Do you find that a drawback?
Through you, Chair, I've heard that comment before, and I have looked at signage that's pretty spectacular that you could put right at the top of the stairs that's close to the street. But once again, it's a capital investment, and that's something that, we'd have to plan for, and it'd have to be a priority. Right now, we're utilizing our social media as best we can, and certainly when we have people in during rentals, we have an audience, and we make sure we take that opportunity to advertise what we do. So word of mouth is really, I think, quite successful for us as we see the increase of 8.5% this year in foot traffic on Saturday market alone.
Right, appreciate that. Farmers markets basically in the whole community operate on Saturdays practically everywhere. Do you find this, what's your biggest competitor or biggest competitors in terms of, even though there's farmers market on the same day, how do you find that as a challenge to get around, to get people to come? I mean, there's St. Jacobs, there's Cambridge has got there, Guelph got theirs, and the further afield you go, there's others. But I guess locally, that becomes a challenge, does it? Or you just have a set group of people coming all the time?
Well, through you, Chair, we did do a survey, and our survey that we did in May 2012, one of the pieces of data was that 55% of the people that we polled, which was approximately just shy of 300, were return visitors to the market. So they're local people, is what we can assume, and within the downtown area, there's 42,000 population. So, no, I'm not finding it difficult. I think there's room for all of us.
And final question, whatever happened to the Wednesday farmers markets?
Through you, Chair. Wednesday farmers markets, I know they've tried it, I think 4 times before. So I think what I've heard, some feedback, is a variety of reasons it didn't work. And some of them were the timing, some of them were, so it didn't reach the crowd after work crowd, or the other things were that the offering, so the vendor commitment wasn't there, so it wasn't a full offering, so maybe we didn't set expectations properly. I mean, I'm just speculating because I wasn't around, but certainly that's something that we will start to do some analysis and some work prior to ever launching a midweek market.
Just further on that, in terms of the last question, I've always been puzzled as to whether that's vendors not being interested in coming on a Wednesday to do, or whether it's just a lack of support from the public coming in on Wednesday to buy their stuff. They would do it once a week as opposed to others coming in on a Wednesday. Yet I look at the St. Jacobs Farmers Market on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the place is packed. And I'm just trying to understand the rationale why one is so overwhelming, and then we're struggling.
Through you, Chair, I've talked to a few vendors, and I have vendors that currently at our market that have left St. Jacobs Market or have a stall space at both markets. So I've gotten some good information from them, and some of the things that they're saying is that, in fact, when they sign up for St. Jacobs, there's a commitment made that they have to honor and show up on the Tuesday and Thursday for their schedule. It's all part of being allowed to be part of their market on a Saturday. So that's one thing. The other thing is the fact that they also, depending on the vendor, Saturday pays for their Tuesday, Thursday. They're not making the money. So it's, perhaps there's a perception there that it's outdoor fresh produce that's packed and being sold, but maybe, a meat vendor, for instance, or a cheese vendor isn't, making enough money. So there's a lot of things to evaluate before you jump into a midweek market in order to make it a success.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Etherington?
Yeah, Kim, just a couple of quick questions. I go to the market most Saturdays with my wife on condition she not hug people. Okay? There's a lot of time spent on that. So, but I wanted to ask you, do you survey customers at the market on a regular basis to find out what they like and what they do not like?
Through you, Chair, that's a very good question. We actually are just putting something in place to do just that on a Saturday. But what I will say is that when we have people in for cooking classes or different team challenges in rentals in the marketplace, we have a template that we ask those types of questions, what they like and what they don't like. So it's just a matter of the resourcing and getting it done. And it's something that's well suited for a volunteer. And we do have that on the radar. And I did tell you that we did our survey in spring of 2012. It's too much to do it every year, but we're doing it every second year.
Yeah.
And then sporadically in between on rental opportunities or cooking classes we ask. But we also get a template for when we have volunteers to ask those types of questions to Saturday market goers.
Yeah, because I hear a lot of positives and a lot of negatives about the market from people who are always there. A couple of the negatives involve the tight parking in the basement, tight traffic in the corridors leading down to the parking area. And also one I just wanted to ask you quickly about, are you able to do anything about the sometimes aggressive panhandling on the way to the market or close into the market? It's like running a gauntlet sometimes.
Through you, Chair, we have engaged the Waterloo Regional Police with regards to the panhandling. We did just notice in the last little while a surge for whatever reason in that type of activity. So we're in close contacts and discussions with the downtown police officers. As well, security is always, we always update them with regards to what's happened on a Saturday too. And we let everyone know what that particular person looks like so that it's reported as soon as possible and we remove them from the premise.
Yeah, I know that there's not much you can do about ordinary panhandling, that's okay, but the aggressive ones, they're the ones that bother me and some of the women that go to the market. So, not in the market, it's approaching the market. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gazzola?
No, I asked my question.
Okay, you were still in the mic queue. And then Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you, Kim. And certainly I enjoy going to the market, and I've seen a steady increase in traffic, although when you said 8%, I was really surprised. I thought it would be much higher than that. Just a quick question on the age of the building. The market building, how old is it?
Through you, Chair, the market was built in 2004.
Okay. And we're already having problems with the roof, or that I think Mr. Herget suggested that it's been an ongoing problem?
The roof is metal roof, and it's put together with rivets, and so there's leaks around the rivet, and that's what we've had to call in for help to have that plugged up.
Okay. You were talking about parking and losing some of the parking when a project that was happening on Madison, and that's one of the parking lots I use. I guess I was under the impression that we were trying to make it a walkable market, and certainly, going in and thinking I'm going to buy 2 things and coming out with 10 things shows how much of a walkable market is as you're loaded down. But is that something that we can try and use as well as in our marketing campaigns, so that we can reduce the dependency on parking lots?
Through you, Chair, yes, definitely. We want to, that's why we were on the bandwagon with the bikes too. So we want to make it a more walkable market, and once LRT comes through, then that will really help us out immensely. We look at the promotion of cycling, and that's going to help things. We also had A-frames we just put up like last week showing where additional parking is. We also we made postcards so that when the police officer has to shut down our parking garage because it's full, then we can hand it to the passenger driving that will illustrate clearly where to go for additional parking. I've also sent out a memo to all the vendors in the lower market and upper market that they're not to park downstairs on a Saturday. And I told them where they should be parking and their staff. So that will free up more space for customers in the lower market parking.
Okay, thanks. You talk about this being a launching pad, and just a quick question: how many international food vendors are up there? My guess is 20, but
no, there's 10 in total.
Oh, there's 10 in total. Okay. So out of that 10, how many have turned over since you've taken over the interim director position?
6 out of the 10.
6 of 10. Okay, 6 have. Okay, that's pretty high. Is there?
It is high, but we've. It opened in 2010, and I'm finding that they've been there 10 years, and they're looking to move on to other retiring. It's that type of demographic for some of them.
Okay. Your comment about it being a launching pad, I guess, one vendor going to its own restaurant, I can understand that would be sort of I would think that would be a natural progression. I'm not sure if that necessarily makes us a launching pad. The other last question I had was regarding the 2014 and beyond considerations. Is there a cost to some of these plans that you're talking about? So you're talking about a 3-year strategic plan and partnerships and sponsorships, connecting with our community. Are there costs that are related to these?
Everything I've listed here would be, if there's a cost, that we would be able to manage it through within our budget.
Okay.
Our current budget of that year.
Okay. And what is your goal for the market, say in the next 2 years? Where do you see the market going, and what is your anticipation in terms of revenue and foot traffic?
Obviously, we want to continue the trends of increasing the foot traffic. And as well, we want to be able to increase our revenues, and we want to decrease the net operating costs. We want to have tighter management controls on where perhaps the maintenance, make sure that that's taken care of, and earlier rather than later, where generally costs then escalate even further. We want to engage the public and educate the public with regards to the offerings within the marketplace. There's huge opportunity for both private and public sectors to utilize that market space and the community as a whole. We'd like to continue our partnerships within the community to promote, especially on a Saturday when we have an audience of over 10,000 people present. It's a great venue to be able to, help other businesses.
Okay. Thank you. I guess one of the things that the things that I think is sad is that the fact that this building sits pretty virtually, or the lower levels, it's virtually empty for 6 out of 7 days, really, doesn't it? The lower level really doesn't have it, is not open. I mean, the upper level is open, but the lower level is space that's not utilized at all, essentially, right? Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Singh?
Yes, thank you. And so, in lines of the questions that have already been asked, it's clear to say that we're not there yet, but it's in progress as to the path of where the costs cover themselves. So it's not tax supported entirely. I do understand that this is as large of a facility as it is. It's not going to be something that can happen immediately, but we have to make sure that council puts priority to ensure that that happens a lot sooner than, it's just the way the market itself can allow it to happen. So, and then that's through various different approaches, and some of those that you guys have already taken in, which is great to see. And we have to continue thinking outside the box a little bit to see. We have this immense, large facility to our disposal, and there has to be other opportunities that we can utilize to ensure that we can add on some extra revenues as well. So it's more of a comment than question, but anyway, no question. So as a facility, apart from the, the international, the stalls for the restaurant stalls and the kitchen and the market, the lower floor, what other space is kind of still there that we don't have really perhaps a vision as immediate, but there could be something further added to the space?
Through you, Chair, I take it you're looking for revenue opportunities for this space, is what you're asking me?
I'm taking an opportunity for this review to see what staff has in mind. You've spoken in some of the improvements we've made and the uptake that's happened because of the improvements. And I'm trying to get from you and taking that opportunity. What do we kind of have perhaps in the works, or something that can still be utilized? Maybe we don't have a vision for it. Something that's staff have to inquire further, or look at further, and may need a capital improvement as well. But there are opportunities that do exist in the market that could add some extra revenue. So do we have space to do that, or is it currently all the allowable spaces is used for the current usages, and we just have to kind of let time take its course and allow the Kitchener market to be sustainable on its own?
Through you, Chair, I do believe it's let time take its course. However, the covered area in the lower market, down the road, perhaps we could close that in and make a bigger market and expand that way. Or we can utilize the piazza in season so that we can rent out stall space outside on the piazza. I mean, that's another idea as well.
So, like Mr.
May, do you want to add?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, not exactly to programming space, but for council's information, the market has been identified as one of our prime opportunities from a naming rights perspective, both the facility as a whole, but also specific components within it. And so you'll see in the sponsorship strategy that comes back to you in early December that it'll be one of those opportunities for revenue generation.
Okay, that's good. What was the total? Actually, I'm going to not go there. So in line to what I was asking before, as to what opportunities do exist, and that's great. And I would hope that staff try to utilize that sooner than later. So we need to take advantage of that, especially while the momentum and growth is happening, right? In a given week, is the market open entirely, or are there certain days that it's not open, or that's open to public?
Oh, through you, Chair. The market is open from Tuesday to Friday from 8 till 3, and that's the upper level of the market. And then Saturday market and upper level market is open from 7 till 2. Those are the hours for the public. Beyond that, we have our rental bookings. So our rental bookings can go like anywhere and everywhere. So if we have one on a Sunday, then so be it. We bring staff in and we come in on a Sunday and on a Monday, which is also our weekend.
Okay.
So we are booking our weekend, which is Sunday, Monday, and we are currently booking in the evening as well in order to increase those rental revenues.
Okay, good. And I'll quickly make my point as well, or my comment. And I understand that staff has been very vigilant on trying to seek out those opportunities wherever we can add further growth and revenue to the market. But we need to continue on having that pressure there. Simply put, the capital infrastructure cost to that neighborhood, what that Kitchener market was quite extensive. And it's not just to see what revenue opportunities are, but we need to see more advantage out of that center. And some points to what Councillor Etherington has said too. And I'm not so sure if those uptakes have happened yet. I would hope to see that with further intensification in the core, like the growth patterns that you've showed and highlighted. But it was good to see, and I hope that will happen beyond that. But we need to make sure that we make those opportunities available on our own, and that we're proactive rather than reactive. So. Thanks.
Okay.
Councillor Galloway-Seelock?
Yeah, I'll apologize now if this question's already been asked. I was paying attention in the back to the live stream, but can only pay so much attention. So my question is with regards to this tax-supported dollars for the operations of the market. And I'm just looking at the chart with the revenues increasing and the overall net operating cost decreasing. Are we seeing those tax-supported dollars specifically for operations decreasing, or is it staying steady over the last 3-4 years?
Through you, Chair, the net operating cost is relatively steady. Like I have my percentages there. I may not be answering your question properly.
That's okay.
We have, 14.8% decrease in net operating costs last year. Going forward this year, I anticipate somewhere near the same.
No, and those are definitely, that's definitely a good news story that your net operating costs are decreasing. I'm just wondering if the tax-supported dollars that we've been giving to the market, if that budget line is staying consistent, or if that's decreasing with the net operating costs decreasing.
Mr. Regier, do you want to add?
Yes. Through you, Chair Davey, we went through a process of strategically reducing the Kitchener market budget in 2009, 2010 specifically. We have held the budget steady in the last couple of years, but when we do run a modest surplus, and we have recently, that just simply goes back into the city's operating budget. We don't think it's prudent to reduce the Kitchener market budget further at this point because, as Ms. Fieries indicated, as we ramp up our activities, we are actually increasing the demands on our team and on our total operating budget. So we hope to see increased revenues, but with those increased revenues, we'll see some increased costs as well. Our objective will be to build net revenues into that future programming, but it's still too early to tell exactly what that will be. I might also offer that in response to a couple of other questions, that the Kitchener market currently receives the highest visitation of any City of Kitchener facility. We have approximately 600,000 visitors to the Kitchener market annually, and that would be almost twice what the Central Library receives. It's over 3 times what the Centre in the Square receives, and it's approximately double what the Kitchener Odd receives. Each of those facilities would be, multi-million-dollar expenditures on the part of the city. So, just to put that into perspective, we see the Kitchener market as an extremely vibrant and significant contributor to the vitality of the city. And actually, I'd like to just relay a personal anecdote on this. I don't want to delay my answer too much, but I had a chance to introduce to welcome the participants to the Startup Smackdown event that Communitech recently held at the market last Thursday. And I did a little customer survey, and I asked how many people had been to the market. And fully 80%, maybe even a little bit higher, put up their hands. And that is in our core economic development. These are either startup founders participants in technology startups or startup funders and supporters, and they were overwhelmingly Kitchener Market consumers. So I was very encouraged to see the direct linkage between our economic development strategy and the Kitchener Market as a catalyst for urban vitality.
That was a really long answer, but
I'm
thank
sorry.
you. I just wanted to be clear. I'm not coming from a perspective of looking at trying to decrease the budget, the tax-supported budget for the market. I just wanted to understand if there was extra money, and I just want to confirm with you that if there is a surplus in that account at the end of the year, that it does get sent back into to the operating budget overall, in case there's a deficit, if we're running a deficit, that if there's a surplus in that account, that it gets put back in tax stabilization or wherever it goes, just like every other department. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chapman?
That is correct, and perhaps what we can do, and we often do, is provide a budget number to compare to the actual, so if that's helpful, we can circulate to all of council what the current budget is for the market.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple questions and there might be a couple comments. Just to follow up, who sets the actual vendor pricing? Like, who determines the amount that vendors pay? Sorry, Mr. Chapman?
It's recommended by staff, but it's included, I believe, in the fees and charges schedule, so council will be dealing with that in November, and certainly if there's more information that you would like, it would be helpful to receive that direction earlier, because typically all you will see is one line item with a range in that fee schedule.
In terms of moving towards profitability, is there any advantages to loosening that restriction and letting the rates be set by management? It's okay, we'll think about that one. Next question, has there ever been consideration of operating the market as using an enterprise model?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Operating the market as an enterprise, like our golf courses or parking. Mr. Chapman?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the fundamental requirement in that case would be for it to have a revenue model that does not rely on tax support. And so all of our true enterprises, golf, the utilities, the parking operation, it's true in all of those cases. It's not true for areas like cemeteries or the market, and so although some of them even may sit within the enterprise division, they are not true enterprises because they do require tax support.
Okay. Which does lead to my next question. I just wanted to follow up again. So, Mr. Regier, you had mentioned that if we were targeting break even, you put that timeline, did you say 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, through you, Chair Davey, I would see break even if you were including facilities management expenses would be out at least 10 years. My suggestion would be that once the LRT launches, we take a look at the possibility of adding a day into the another day into the market calendar, a weekday market. As the city intensifies around the Kitchener market, we might be able to consider adding additional days beyond that. But I think we're at least 10 years from being able to run this entirely on a break-even basis.
I'm not sure if anyone can answer this, but when the market idea was conceived, was it always anticipated that it would be on that it would require tax support?
I wasn't actually here, and I can't remember hearing about that particular debate.
Okay. Last question from an economic development standpoint. This is a bit of a tough one, but has there ever been any concern? There's no secret that we've long wanted a grocery store downtown. Has there ever been? How would you respond to the sentiment that one of the reasons we haven't seen a grocery store is because they wouldn't want to compete with a government establishment that's prepared to lose money?
Through you, Chair Davey, we've had conversations with all of the major grocers, and there's significant interest in the development of full-service grocer in the downtown. None of those companies has ever identified the market as a serious competitive challenge to them. That said, a full-day grocer, a standardized commercial grocer in the area of the market might represent a challenge to the Kitchener market itself. But certainly we see the market as a highly specialized food, local food venue. It's a catalyst. It's a hybrid between a community center and a commercial property. Our customers are extremely loyal. They come for the social and the community aspects of the experience as much as they do for the pure shopping experience, which is extensive. So I think that there's plenty of room in the market for a standardized commercial grocer. I might say that we actually do have two groceries in the immediate area around the market. One is the New City Market, which does extremely well, and another one just down King Street, so to the east. So we see significant synergies there, product offerings which are unique in both areas, and certainly highly specialized marketplaces or consumer bases.
Okay. Very good. There is no action required, so just comments. Councillor Ioannidis, you wanted to comment?
I'll make my comments quick. I think overall it's good to see that we're seeing some positive movement towards the market in general and the potential that it has, and it's unfortunate that it hasn't been as fast as we all would like to see it. But regardless, we can't ignore, and Rod Gears probably stole some of the words that I wanted to use, we can't ignore the value, the vitality, the much needed services, and in particular community building that the market brings in particular to that core. So I think you can't really put a value to that. It's something that is, I think we need to keep in perspective.
Thank you. And I'll comment as well. I asked some tough questions because it's my job, but looking at the financials from 2009 to 2012, it's very clear we're going in the right direction and quite rapidly at that. So again, I'm very happy with where we're going financially. I would like to see some, when I'm looking at the strategic goals in the slides and the 2014 and beyond, I would like to see a bit more focus on moving towards breaking even if that can't be done for several years. I'd like to see more focus on that in the near term. Even if we're looking at the market and we're looking at expanding services, I would rather we focus a bit more on working towards bringing that expense in. There are... We'll just close up. Thank you, Ms. Fair, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We're actually going to move into communities. Oh, pardon me. Oh, sorry, I didn't see these pop up. There were no comments prior. Councillor Glenn Graham.
Just very briefly, I do want to say that I'm very impressed with the direction we're moving. And I also think there's tremendous potential for partnerships, additional partnerships with the market, including the Piazza, perhaps looking at opportunities aligned with the buildings beside the market as well, and the corporate world that we've spoken about. I do think we need to take a look from a transportation point of view about the traffic flow, and I would ask staff to perhaps look at that, that we could potentially reduce the amount of policing or have none if we had one-ways at Cedar and looping around to Eby. We do need some attention on the bottleneck on Eby because there's people parking along the sides of the roads constantly, pretty much right from 8 o'clock right through till 2 o'clock, and that's creating a safety hazard. And I've spoken to our security and our bylaw directors and to see if there's an opportunity for them to do a loop and inspect and move people along. But overall, I'm extremely impressed by the direction and the effort that's gone in here, and I'm looking forward to see what's next.
And lastly, Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. when I started the line of questioning, I was trying to gear towards a break-even position. Going back to when this new market was established, it was intended to be a 7-day-a-week market, and it has never, ever developed to that. On a number of occasions, I have actually asked that we consider outsourcing the market operation and privatizing it with some kind of subsidization to continue the Saturday markets. I mean, the market now is costing us in the neighborhood of $600,000 a year, and that's substantially higher than it has in the past year in the glory days of our Kitchener farmers market. And I must say it's nice now to be able to still call it farmers market. For many years that was a no-no. So it is a farmers market. I think I don't want to be negative. I think there's been a lot of strides made and there's been a lot of improvements. It's just the question, is this, and do our residents realize that it is costing us $500,000 to $600,000 a year to have the market, and is that what they want? If that's what they want, so be it. But they should be made aware of that. I would still like to consider privatizing it to help out the taxpayer and still have the amenities that we do have at the market, which is still primarily a Saturday operation.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. What we're going to do, actually, we have a delegation for one item on community infrastructure services that shouldn't take very long. It's the safe and healthy item. So we'll move into community infrastructure services right away, and then we'll break after. Thank you.
Actually, we'll have like a one